How many people are going to reach rock bottom when this is all over? This is Alex from Mindful Wave Studio. I've been thinking a lot about what some of the biggest and scariest problems that we're going to face in the future. Obviously, there's going to be enormous costs with the virus in loss of life and economic damage and financial hardship for people. But I think one of the biggest things that people are going to struggle with in the coming months and maybe years is starting over, reaching rock bottom and reinventing themselves. So right now we're seeing tons of people commit suicide at probably, I'm not sure, but probably a higher rate than usual. And I believe that once isolation continues the way it is, we're going to see a gigantic mental health crisis. And I believe that this mental health crisis is going to be made worse by the fact that people are afraid of starting over. They're afraid of rock bottom. They're afraid of having to reinvent themselves. They're afraid of being stripped raw and needing to build from a foundation. For many people, reaching rock bottom is a terrifying place, and it's heartbreaking, and it's incredibly challenging. And I know because I've been there multiple times. In fact, I've reached moments in my life where I keep saying, wow, I didn't think that I could reach a rock bottom lower than the last one. But I did, and the best part about them, I survived them. For many people, rock bottom is a place where they can grow. And for many successful people, it's where they grew and built a foundation. And many people started successful businesses after places of rock bottom and created their best work from this place. To give you an example of a rock bottom moment in my life, and the reason why it makes me smile is because during the time it seemed like such a big deal and seemed like an impossible feat to overcome. But when I think back upon it, it seems like it's not that big of a deal. And now that the pain is gone and I've grown and gotten over that, I can look back and understand the valuable lesson in hitting rock bottom. So in 2015, I moved to Taiwan. And before Taiwan, I had been living in America, living with my parents. Before that, I was living in Korea. From the moment I got back from Korea, I wanted to move back to Asia. It took me a long time to get to Taiwan. I came to Taiwan with about $4,000 in my bank account, no friends, and I had no job. So I was really starting from a rock bottom place. But it got worse. So I started working in a school, and the school wasn't paying me very much because wages in Taiwan aren't that very high. So after about 2 years, I had $0, and I had racked up about $15,000 in credit card debt. I was having a really, really hard financial time. The director of the school sent me on a business trip to take a team of students to go study English in Malta. So here I am with no money, $15,000 in debt, and my director, who's an amazing woman, sends me on this business trip, a very gracious gift of her, to a beautiful little island in the Mediterranean. And yet, being at that rock bottom moment, I couldn't appreciate it, but things got worse. So I arrive at the airport kind of late, and I decide not to exchange my money at the airport in Taiwan. Then we fly to Turkey, and again, I decide not to change my Taiwanese dollars into the euros that I would need in Malta. Finally, I get to the airport in Malta and realize that they're not exchanging euros for Taiwanese dollars, because why would anyone want Taiwanese dollars in Malta? After a few days walking around the island and visiting various banks, I realized that no one was going to take my Taiwanese dollars. And then it hit me very hard. I realized that I had no money. I had $15,000 in debt. The little money that I did bring, I realized was not available to me because I brought Taiwanese dollars to a foreign country. So I remember walking back from the bank back to the school where we were staying, and I had incredible fear in the moment about what I was going to do. And I couldn't for the life of me, for that hour walk from the bank back to the school, I couldn't figure out what I was going to do. And I promise you, it was a rock bottom moment that terrified me. There were other things going on in my life too at the time that were making things a lot worse. But to have that financial pressure on top of everything was terrifying. But within a matter of an hour, I collected my resources and I started talking to some people, and I realized that there was a solution. So I couldn't see it during my walk. I couldn't see the opportunity that was there in that hour of complete fear, hopelessness, despair. I thought I was going to have to just eat out of trash cans. I literally remember thinking, how long can I go without spending money? Like, could I just not eat for the 2 weeks until I got back to Taiwan? Could I just drink water? And I really, genuinely, I was thinking these things about how long I could survive without having to purchase something. And then I thought about, could I steal money? Could I steal food? Could I steal water? Et cetera, et cetera. And then I realized opportunity was right there. So when I got back to the school, I started talking to all the students that we arrived with, and they all had the same problem. They had brought so many euros from Taiwan, thinking that they needed a lot more money than they did, because everybody who traveled to Europe had said Europe was so expensive. So everybody brought thousands and thousands of Taiwanese dollars, converted them into euros, and now they had all this surplus of euro. So I asked people if I could just exchange Taiwanese dollars for euros, because they're going to need the Taiwanese dollars when they go back. I ended up exchanging the Taiwanese dollars for euros that they had, and it ended up working out perfectly. But in that moment, I couldn't really understand how many options I had, because in that hour or two of fear and despair, you can't see the light. And now that's just an example of a very quick rock bottom and then getting out of it. But I've also faced moments in my life where the rock bottom has been so long and so enduring and so painful that it does something greater. So the event that happened in Malta, I believe, was a good exercise in seeing that there's opportunity all around and that there's always a solution out. So if you're struggling with a rock bottom moment right now, you should know that there's creative ways you can pull yourself out of rock bottom moments. But what happens when rock bottom lasts for months and months? I believe that this is an opportunity for you to strip away things in your life that you don't need. So right now I'm in Thailand, and before coming here, I faced a lot of difficult challenges, and I got very stripped away. So one of the beautiful things about rock bottom that people don't understand is that they have an opportunity to only focus on what matters. And when you're at rock bottom, you're not worried about these distant relationships, and you're not worried about impressing people. You're worried about survival, and survival can be a very important thing, because survival teaches you what you need to focus on and what really matters to you. So in this past 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever you want to call it, I've really learned what's important to me, and I couldn't have done that if I hadn't faced the rock bottom that came in the last year for me. This channel, for example, I realize is one of the most important things in my life, if not the most important thing. And I couldn't realize that if I hadn't hit rock bottom. So no matter what happens in the next 6 months, 1 month, whatever, I want you to remember that rock bottom can be a beautiful place. It can be an amazing place of foundation and growth and reinvention. Wherever you are right now, it might get worse, it might get better, but know that if you're at rock bottom, or you're afraid of rock bottom in the future, it's a chance for you to reinvent yourself. It's a chance for you to find creative solutions to the problems you're in. It's a chance for you to strip away what doesn't matter and focus on what the most important things are in your life. And for many people, they've never had the opportunity to do that. And during what some would call a very comfortable life, I never had the opportunity to really know what was truly important for me until I faced all these rock bottom moments. And now I'm years away from certain rock bottom moments in my life, and I'm years away from pain and suffering and heartbreak. And I'm only a few months away from what was probably the scariest time of my life, and probably the scariest rock bottom moment that I've ever had to face. And it already feels like it's nothing because I found a creative solution out of it and I know that I can handle it. And the most important part is I understand the value in being stripped away and understanding my true priorities, my true mission, my true purpose on this planet. So my advice for you is to accept the rock bottom that may or may not come and be okay with being stripped away and starting over. Starting over can be an amazing thing. And don't be afraid to reinvent yourself because something cooler can come from reinvention. Don't be afraid to let go of who you are right now in order to find out who you could become.